It's a pleasure to be here talking about something I'm passionate about, which is storytelling in tech. And I'll be going through how you can write for adoption, how we can use storytelling to drive product growth. So I want this to be as interactive as possible, so please don't air me when I ask you questions. Thank you. So how many tech writers are here with us today? Jesus Christ. Okay, how many of us have written content before, articles, tutorials, documentation? All right, good. So the reason I'm asking this question is because decades ago, the primary job of a technical writer would be to document features, say how to use a product, say what button does what. But for us new age technical writers, we are in the adoption business. And that means that right now, technical content creation has shifted from just being an educational resource to now being a strategic driver for product growth. And that's why we're having this conversation today, because companies are looking for people that can take an article, help their readers to solve a problem, but still find a way to sell their product without forcing the product down the user's throat. Now, that means that we have a new mandate, and our mandate is to create content that empowers users to make the most out of a product. Now, there's an often underestimated way of fulfilling this mandate, of creating content that makes people want to use a product, and that's storytelling. So before I leave here today, I have just two goals. My first goal is to convince you that storytelling is not fluff or just for beginners. And my second goal is to introduce to you a practical storytelling framework that can drive product growth. Now, when I finish, I'm going to ask you if I accomplish these goals. If you say yes, I would probably say clock it. But if you say no, well, I hope that you don't say no. So what is product adoption? Can anyone tell us what they think product adoption means in your own words? Please, you guys should not be shy. I'm the only shy person. Can anyone tell us what they think product adoption means? Okay. So product adoption is basically a structured process that takes users through 4 critical stages. And I'm going to explain this using a relationship analogy. So the first stage is awareness. Now, this is when a person first comes in contact with a product. This is when they first discover that this product even exists. Now, in terms of relationship, this will be you discovering a new talking stage. Now, the second part of the product adoption process is interest and evaluation. So this person has, they now know that this product exists, and they're trying to understand if this is something that can meet their needs, and if this is something, how it compares to other probably existing products on the market. Now, in terms of your relationship, that would be you checking if your talking stage is chalant or nonchalant. If, they like eating cold Indomie, so you can end the talk before it's too late. And now the third part of product adoption is activation or trial. So this is when, the user has become familiar with this product. So they're like, okay, let me give it a try. So they sign up, they try to use this product. They're now interacting with the product. Now, in terms of relationship, this would be you going out on a date with your talking stage. So you can see if they used to use spoon to eat amala, so you can end it in time. Now, the final stage, and what every business is craving for, is adoption. And this is when a user becomes familiar with the product to the point that it becomes part of their routine. They become loyal to that product, right? And this is when, you ask your talking stage out into what I hope would be a God-fearing relationship. Now, the reason I mentioned these 4 stages in product adoption is because as technical writers, our content plays a crucial role in every single stage. And storytelling can be a defining tool that takes users from awareness to adoption. Now, you might be wondering, why am I emphasizing storytelling like it's the gospel? Because it might actually be. The human mind is a vehicle for storytelling. We all love a good story. From our primary school days of Sugar Girl, how many of us read Sugar Girl? Okay. From our primary school days of Sugar Girl to you last week, probably trying to get to the bottom of Israel Gist on Twitter, we all love stories. And in his book, the storytelling animal, Jonathan Gottschalk says something I completely agree with. He said, we are as a species addicted to story. Even when the body goes to sleep, the mind stays up all night telling itself stories. That's how you wake up and start having dreams about, people that you're in love with. If storytelling is such an integral part of human culture, it makes me wonder, why is it that when we come into the tech world, we like to leave it outside the door? We feel like it's going to dumb down information for a technical audience, or we feel like it's fluff, it's just marketing fluff, or it's just for beginners. I know technical accuracy is great, it's awesome to be technically brilliant, but alone, it is often not enough to make people want to use a product. Do you know that people are 22 times more likely to remember a story than they would remember facts? And that's because stories will always stick with your audience, but facts will fade. Now, if you want facts to fade, it means that you have to attach it to a context or a meaning. And storytelling is what provides that context. So when you think of storytelling, I don't want you to see it as starting a tutorial with once upon a time in a land of microservices. Honestly, doing that should be grounds for breakup. That's not storytelling. Storytelling is about structure. It's about presenting information in a way that mirrors how you and I retain information. It's about using a narrative framework to say what you're trying to make your audience understand, help them connect to the information you are sharing, make them see how a product can improve their lives. So storytelling is basically seeing your user's problem, making them feel like you understand where they are coming from, you get them, so that when they leave your article, they feel like they've gone from 0 to 1. Now, as tech writers, we need to find a way to balance emotional connection with technical accuracy. Because the truth is, emotions is what makes people do something. When you make someone feel a specific kind of emotion, they react to it. So you want to achieve the same thing in your writing. You don't have to trade being technically accurate for connecting emotionally with your audience. Both of them can coexist in your content. And honestly, the right story is what can bridge the gap between a brilliant product and the people it was built for. My Igbo tongue said gap. Anyway, now that you know what storytelling means in the context of technical writing, how can you correctly apply it in a way that would actually drive product growth? Now, there are so many ways to go about this, but because of our time and because of today, I want to introduce you to a framework that I have used in my own content that I call the PTS framework. Problem for P, tension for T, and S for solution. Now, what's this framework? This framework is basically structuring your content in a way that the user's problem is validated, the cost of not taking action is clarified, and then you present a specific product as the solution to that problem you validated. Now, this framework works because it mirrors how you and I process our problems and seek solution. So as human beings, when we have a problem, we first recognize we have that problem. And then we deal with the pain of that problem. And finally, we seek relief in the form of solution. So let's see a real-life representation of the PTS framework. Now, first of all, maybe your babe is no longer replying you fast. They are airing your message. That's a problem. If you recognize that, oh my God, my relationship is coming to an end. And then you start thinking about all the times you were probably blowing kisses through your phone because you're in a long-distance relationship, or you were dashing MTN free data because you were doing end the call, no, you end the call, end the call, no, you end the call. And you start thinking about how loyal you were to this your babe that wants to leave you now. That's you dealing with the weight of your problem. And then finally, you are like, Omo, no be me kill Jesus. I have to move on. There are so many fishes in the sea. I will get another one someday. So you break up with your babe. And finally, you probably lock in. Maybe that's how you even got into tech. Don't judge me. That's how I did. Okay? So this is a real-life representation of the PTS framework. Now, how can you use this in technical writing? So to help you understand it better, we're going to pretend that we're creating content for an imaginary person called John. So John is an AI engineer. He's trying to build an AI model that will be able to detect financial trends in financial news. But the problem is that John is spending a lot of time with data preprocessing and cleaning. He's doing formatting, he's structuring his data because he's scraping raw web data. What John needs is a product that is going to be faster, cleaner, smoother, something like Firecrawl, but he doesn't know about that product. Now, if you also don't know about Firecrawl, Firecrawl is an AI-driven web scraping tool. I'm not marketing for them. I'm just using them as an example. So we're going to pretend that we're creating a tutorial called how to collect high-quality web data for AI model training. So we have pretended we're creating content for John, and we're creating a tutorial for him. And I'm going to use this to explain the PTS framework. Now, P, problem. So the first thing you want to do when you are communicating or trying to sell a product to your reader is to articulate the specific problem they are facing. Be precise. Make the person feel like, oh, this person know me reach house. Like you're reading their mind. Make them feel like, okay, this person has done deep research. They understand me. This builds empathy with your audience. They feel like this person really cares about them. And it builds trust. And it makes them interested in what next you have to say. And the only way to achieve this is to do deep research. Don't make assumptions about your audience. Go into community forums like Stack Overflow, Reddit, see what they are searching for, understand their pain points, their struggles, what is bothering them, what would matter to them. That's the only way you can create content that will actually connect with them. Now, a sample paragraph that you would write for someone like John is, building resilient AI models starts with quality data, but collecting that data is often the most frustrating part of the machine learning pipeline. Web scraping is a cost-effective approach, yet you are faced with raw HTML clutter requiring further filtering, fragile scripts vulnerable to paid layout changes, and anti-bot mechanisms blocking your requests. All these are problems that John is most likely facing. And him seeing this would make him feel like, okay, this person is probably experiencing what I am currently going through. He would relate more. It will demonstrate your credibility because it means that you are speaking from a place of experience. Now, the second part of the framework is T, which means tension. So here you want to tell the reader what is at stake. What will happen if you don't take action right now? What will happen in the future if you let this problem elongate? And there are so many ways for you to make your reader feel this tension. You can do it by quantifying the impact of maybe loss or risks or inefficiency. You can say, okay, 10 hours of your time will be lost, 10% of this would reduce. You want to give them numbers, evidence, so they know that you are using data that is actually real. You can also use the ripple effect, where you show your reader that this problem you're going through right now, if you don't fix it, it's going to expand into 3 other problems, right? Or you can talk about what solutions they are currently using. Maybe they are trying out another, you don't have to name call a product, but maybe they are trying another technique. You can mention that technique and tell them why it falls short so that you can now present your solution, your product as the better alternative. Now, a sample paragraph I've written for someone like John, who is our target audience, our hypothetical target audience, would be, the real problem isn't just the data preprocessing overhead. It is what poor data quality does to your entire model training workflow. According to Gartner, 60% of AI projects fail due to lack of AI-ready data. It weakens a model's performance and lengthens development cycles. Now, we already know John's problem was data preprocessing overhead. Now, we've told him that this problem can also lead to poor model performance and also lengthen development cycles. There's something I want you to notice. Even if I'm trying to pull John in with my content, I'm not telling stories about cat and dog. Most times when we think about storytelling, we think it's about saying, oh, the cat killed the dog and that's how API was formed. That's not storytelling. Storytelling is just connecting or triggering that emotion in your audience that makes them want to continue reading your content. It's about giving them a why. Why should this matter to me? Why is this product important? How can this product improve my life? It's providing them answers to those questions. It's not about cracking jokes in your content. So after you've given John this tension, there's something I want you to note. If you do tension too much, if you start to exaggerate things, your content will look like clickbait, and that's not what you want to do. Remember, we're still creating educational content. We're trying to teach John how to collect high quality web data. So you want to present your tension in a way that tells him this is why you need to use this product. You don't have to be salesy or forcing the product down his throat. Now, after tension, after you've made John emotionally invested in your content, the next thing is solution. So here is where you now present that specific product that you want John to try out. You want to bring that product like a genuine breath of fresh air. Make John feel like, okay, this might be something that can actually save me from these trenches I am in. Now, like I said, our sample product here is Firecrawl. We want to tell John that, okay, instead of you maintaining complex scripts, you can actually just use AI to automate this whole process. Now, there are so many ways for you to implement solution. The way to implement solution would be to show the outcome. Now, some of us are obsessed with features. We like to list the features of something. We like to, say, oh, this thing will do 80% of this. Just go straight to the outcome. What will I get from using this product up front? For someone like John wants to hear that he's going to get clean data. He doesn't want you to start listing all the parts that make up the product. Just tell him straight up, what's the capability of this product that is going to save my life? So you want to show him the outcome and then use your tutorial to show him how to achieve that outcome. So you want to give John a working example, and I'm emphasizing working because your tutorial has to be something that if I use it right now, I will get that thing you said I would get while using the product. Not that when the person starts using it, they start discovering new steps that you did not include in your tutorial. Another thing is to provide clear success criteria. Sometimes when we're making steps of how someone should use something, we forget to include what will the person see when they implement that step. So when you say do this, okay, when I do it, what will I see? By showing the person what success looks like when they use that product, it makes, if they are not getting the same thing, they know that, okay, something is wrong somewhere. Another thing I always encourage writers to do is to acknowledge trade-offs honestly. You want to make the person feel like you've actually tested this product, and you still want to put that decision-making capability in their hand. When you tell the user, okay, you might have to trade speed for better results, they know upfront what they are expecting. Now, it's not their choice to say, you know what, I don't care, I still want to use this product. So you're not forcing them to use that product. You're giving them the choice to say, I don't want to use it, by telling them honestly that this is what you might have to trade for the other. Now, a sample solution paragraph I would have written for John is, instead of maintaining complex scraping scripts and performing extensive manual cleaning, AI web scraping tools like Firecrawl allow you to automate structured web data collection. Firecrawl uses an AI-powered web crawler to intelligently extract the main content of a web page in clean Markdown. You see, I did not start listing the parts of Firecrawl because I can always do that in the tutorial. Straight up, I told John, when you use Firecrawl, what are you going to get? The main content of a web page. That means he won't have to deal with the HTML clutter he was going through. And he's going to get in clean Markdown. That means he won't spend so much time in pre-processing, which would also solve all the things I told him in the tension part of the framework. Now, like everything in life or in content creation, the effectiveness of this framework still comes down to how you present it, depending on who you're writing for. The way you write for a beginner is not the way you approach content you're writing for an expert. Beginners, their problem is usually personal confusion or frustration. And what they want from you is immediate confidence. For someone that's an expert, what they are looking for is optimization, mastery. So the way you use this framework for a beginner is not the same way you're going to use it for an expert. That's why I said it's very important you do deep research so you can know how to approach content based on the person you are writing for. Now, I know I've said a lot of things that you probably forget once you go for the next season with another person. But even if you forget everything I've said today, I want you to remember this. The product is not the hero. I've emphasized, yes, presenting it in your article, but it is just the technology that is going to help improve the reader's life. It is not the person you are writing for. The user, the person that should be your central focus, is the hero. And what you want to do with your content is to take your reader from 0 to 1. You are taking them from the frustrating place they were in, where they needed you. You came in like the savior that you are with this product. And by the end of your tutorial, they should be able to go to a successful state. And this is one of the ways to actually check if your content is good. You can speak grammar, you can try to sound intelligent, but if after using your product, there is no real change in the user's life, then there is no point writing that content. When someone reads your work, they should go from 0 to 1, from 1 to 10, from 10 to 100. There should be a change, a transformation that happens. And that will only come when you introduce storytelling in your work. Now, before we leave today, I want to speak to, sadly, there were not a lot of technical writers today, but even though you are not a technical writer, as long as you create content, you need to stop seeing yourself as just someone that, meets word counts. Maybe the person you're working with tell you, oh, this article, we want it to be 1,200 words. You are not just that person. You're not just someone that drives traffic to a blog. You are a growth partner. You are someone that plays a role in user acquisition and product growth. So you want to create content that would form a core part of a user's experience. And after today, if you introduce storytelling into this content you are creating, I promise you the difference will be clear. So before I leave, I'm going to ask you one last time if I accomplish my goals, so I can do my clock it and somebody can, take me pictures. So, yes. So, did you understand that storytelling is not fluff or just for beginners? Okay. Did you understand the framework I introduced to you? Are you mistaking it? Yes. Clacky. Yes. So if you have any questions for me now, I'll take it. Okay.
First off, your talk was amazing.
Thank you.
I have a question. So I am a technical writer and I focus on mainly technical topics that solve problems, specifically accessibility. But I do want to delve into blogging in general. When I say blog, you know how technical writing is specific. I'm talking about this, what this can solve, and questions and like that. But I want to delve into blogging, like storytelling, where I, instead of using third person personas to tell the story, like it, they, right? I want to make it personal, right? And talk about my experience with something. Maybe my experience with speaking at an event, let's say for instance, or my experience with traveling, or my experience with using a product. So how do I, given that I've been doing just technical work for the longest time, how do I merge it? Because sometimes it feels like it's not, I'm not used to informal settings, so it feels like it's not correct, like it's too informal. How do I merge it?
Okay.
Not doing that here.
Like I said, the problem is we often think storytelling, especially in tech world, has to be funny. It's not informal. You are someone that has experience, and you sharing that experience is just you telling your story. So if you've solved a problem, maybe in your line of work, or like you said, you coming to this event, you retelling your audience that story. That storytelling. It does not mean it's informal. It's just you sharing from your experience, and someone else would use that information. Before I came here today, I read an article by a technical writer where she spoke about public speaking. She spoke about her experience public speaking, and what she said was what helped me to not die of hypertension here today. So she didn't, in her work, she didn't start saying, oh, when you come here, the cat and the dog, which people often think is storytelling. She just said, when you come here, don't die of hypertension. That's not what she said, but that's what I interpreted. So my point is just you telling your story is not informal. You have to have that mindset shift. It is not informal to speak from experience. In fact, people like us that are tired of reading formal stuff will actually appreciate you, being your genuine self, being open about your journey. I would want to read that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Okay.
Spoken English is different from written English,
Yeah.
at least from this part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're the way I'm speaking now is obviously not the way I want to write
Yeah.
something down. And I think that's where the formal or informal setting comes in. Like, at what point are you going off the rail? Like, at what point are you being wrong with your writing? At what point are you saying something too personal? At what point does it go from storytelling to inappropriate?
Okay. So, like I said, it still comes down to who you're writing for. When you're writing your content, you obviously are expecting a specific kind of person. You're not writing for everybody, right? So you obviously expect a specific kind of person. So let me expose myself. Before I got into tech, what I was doing for a living was insulting Nigerian men online. I had a blog. I've deleted it so no one can trace it when I blow. So I was doing that. I was targeting a specific audience, which is my fellow sad Nigerian women that they've broken their hearts. So the way I was communicating was the way that audience I'm targeting would understand. So I'm saying things like Nigerian men need to go, tie them, fling them inside the bush. They understood because they could relate to my pain, right? So your question, the answer to it is who you're writing for. If you're writing to people that you know the language you or the way you want to communicate will be okay with them, right? Then it's cool. You have the creative liberty to do that. That's why in tech, like if you're writing a specific kind of person, there are some kind of things you won't say compared to if you're writing to a beginner. So it still comes down to who you're writing for. Don't be like me. Don't write about Nigerian men, but just speak from your heart